Welcome to West Virginia Beer Roads, a podcast all about beer from a West Virginia perspective. I'm Erin McCoy, here with my podcast partner, Charles Bockway.
Ross Williams is one of the more insightful and successful brewers currently working in the state of West Virginia. He has managed the brewing operations at Bad Shepherd Beer Company in Charleston since 2016. And before that, he worked for several years, learning the brewery ropes at Morgantown Brewing Company, working under then head brewer Brian Anderson.
That's right, Charles. And ever since I met Ross here in Charleston, he's been a lot of fun to talk with for his insights on our beer market and his outlook on West Virginia beer culture in general.
So here he is, the man himself, joining us today on West Virginia Beer Roads. We welcome Ross Williams, head brewer at Bad Shepherd Beer Company. Ross, it's great to have you back with us.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here again. Sitting on the other side of the table tonight. It's cool.
We're happy to have you, and thank you so much, Ross, for bringing a couple of Bad Shepherd brews for us to sample today.
Absolutely.
Well, let's pour one, and Ross, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce what, in fact, we are drinking.
Okay, what we've got is kind of a last-minute inspiration of a recipe, something I've thought about for a good while. Kind of our take on a honey brown ale, calling it poplar because it resembles poplar honey. It has a little bit of a tang. Mm-hmm. It has the color look, mm-hmm. and but really we're using a lot of honey malt in this brew, and then some crystal malts, other dark malts to make a light-bodied brown ale.
Yeah, and I think that light-bodied brown ale is something you don't see quite as much of today at most breweries because, it's not a style that in recent years people have demanded. I mean, like they do the hazy IPAs.
Absolutely not. Yeah, no one demanded this beer except me, I think.
But you got your sweetness, you said, out of the honey malt.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great product. It allows you to leave that flavor of honey in your finished beer, mm-hmm. whereas using a lot of honey is great, but you in my experience you don't get any honey flavor in the end, really.
Yeah, I had this the other day at the brewery when it came out, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't get a chance then to talk to you about it, but I immediately added it to this week's kind of beer suggestions for wintertime. Stop in your brewery and drink a wintertime beer. I thought this was a very nice addition down your place.
Great, thank you.
Yes, I would absolutely echo that. Well, Ross, since we've talked with you last, there's been a bunch of changes in Charleston, especially the West Virginia beer market. Does it have your head spinning? Imagine it would. With two new breweries and the one new remote brewery tap room opening last year, the local beer market's taken a big jump forward. I don't know how much time you've had to explore these other tap rooms, but if you have, what's your take on the new guys?
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's got my head spinning exactly. This is something I've seen, kind of developing for a while, and really excited about it, It's always great to finish up work and have a beer at your own place, but it also feels pretty good to be able to just go down the street and know there's some quality neighbors bringing more and more enthusiastic people into craft beer.
What do you think it does specifically for our local Charleston beer market?
I think having one new brewery, Fife Street, and a new tap room for Short Story Brewing on the same block is huge for us, mm-hmm. Because it really does bring people in. I think it makes Charleston a destination for a certain segment of people.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've seen more than anything else. I mean, if you didn't know anything about the beer quality at any of your places, just seeing how many people are coming to that block now. One outlet, two breweries on the same block. That's amazing and so different. I mean, everybody's talking about the traffic that's brought to that block of Summer Street in Charleston. With that being said, a lot more people coming down. How do you kind of lay that out in terms of what's going on at each of these places in your head? I mean, how do they differ? How are they alike? The three places we've talked about, between Fife, Bad Shepherd, and Short Story.
Oh, gosh. I mean, certainly we've all got our own feel going on, you know. But you know, the kind of the craft aspect is predominant in all three of those spots. You know, you can get a flight. You can certainly get samples. I think it's a pretty positive attitude among all the staffs. You know, it's like, it's a really cool vibe.
Yeah, but I mean, do you see strengths of each being different? You know, because you don't all brew the same beers. I mean,
Oh,
to some
absolutely
extent,
not.
But
Absolutely not. Oh gosh, man.
putting you on the spot. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I really enjoyed a Carriage Trail Pale at Fife Street the other night with my friend Rob. That's what he was drinking when I walked in. So.
Yeah, that's a nice beer that they put out. They made it at a very small batch, like a 1-barrel batch back in the summer, I think. And now they've got a full batch of it, and I thought that was dynamite good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, Short Stories always doing a good job with IPAs. They had some super fresh IPA. I forget what it's called. Pretty good.
Yeah,
Very good.
They're rotating so many other
Yeah, they've got a
popular
lot of
ones
options.
through, and they've done a great job there. Well,
definitely a lot of folks say it's beneficial, as we've already said, to have several brewery options within walking distance. So I would think that Bad Shepherd would benefit from that too. Have the recent openings on your block impacted the beer sales themselves at Bad Shepherd for you?
You know, what's crazy is our beer sales are very, very similar year on year.
Regardless of competition.
Well, and I think those numbers are from end of year 2022. Obviously, Short Story hadn't been open there very long at that point.
Right.
But they were very similar year on year. So really, I guess the next year is when we would really see what a difference it would be. But I would like to hope that if it's steady like that, it'll only mean an increase in the future.
Right. Beer destination, lots of options for people. As you said, walk down the street.
Yeah, the overflow for any of the breweries is the next brewery.
so Ross, let's broaden this look at the West Virginia beer market. I mean, out from Charleston to kind of like statewide. I mean, here we are in the first month of 2023. 10 years ago, you could pretty much count the number of breweries in the state on one hand. Today, we're over 30. In your opinion, is there still room for growth here in West Virginia beer market? And where are the gaps that a new brewery could fill?
Yeah, great questions. Great question. 30, that's a great number.
Over 30, really.
Over
I think
30.
It's 31,
Wow.
32, 33.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, I think we're going to see a lot of opportunity in smaller communities for, you know, nano brewery type, real local places. You know, as for big growth, absolutely. I mean, West Virginians are just getting more and more into craft beer.
Yeah, are you seeing that now? I mean,
Finally.
when I walk down Summer Street and see those 3 brewery places just packed on a weekend, my thought is something's changing in this town. Used to not be like that. We didn't have that kind of local beer emphasis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I go in the Nano Brewery on the west side and see people seeking that out.
Elk City, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on. But now it's definitely time to zoom in on Bad Shepherd Brewing Company and some of the things that are stand out there. For instance, your Sour Holler series has really been a big hit. Is it as popular today as when it was first introduced?
Well, probably. It's always kind of hard to say, like, how an individual beer's doing when you're rotating everything all the time. Or sometimes we'll have 2 Sour Hollers on at the same time. And so it's then you can really see like those two like side by side how
Sure.
they're doing. what people prefer. We keep selling it, so
there's definitely still
will,
demand.
We will keep making it.
Well, as far as continuing as adding to the actual series itself, do you plan on doing that, or if not, do you have a new series maybe in mind?
So far, I don't think we've done a Sour Holler twice. So, we may go back and revisit some of our favorites. It's also kind of fun to just keep doing 2 new fruits.
Mm-hmm.
And for listeners that haven't been to your place and had the Sour Holler series, explain a little bit about generally what that is.
Yeah, fruity Gosa, slightly salty, fairly sour beer with a ton of fruit puree.
And as you said, it's fun doing two new fruits. So is there like a particular selection process as far as which fruits you choose, or just what happens to be in the brewery, or in what products you've purchased?
Yeah, it comes down to sitting down with the fruit company's price sheet and getting inspired. Sometimes kind of Googling around or testing out a small amount, but when you buy that fruit, you're committing. You've got to use that fruit after you buy a 55-gallon drum of puree.
Well, I heard you had a Wheel of Fortune wheel back there, and you just spin that thing, and whatever fruit comes up, then you spin it again, and you have to blend those two. Is that pretty much how that works? Pretty much. So what are some of the more fun ones you think, combinations of fruits that you've put into Sour Holler?
I think the peach berry is probably the best.
Mm-hmm.
And what?
Peach with raspberry and blackberry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, and people love Sour Holler, but I'm sure you do a lot more because you're one of those breweries in West Virginia that brews tons of new beers every year. Maybe not the most of any brewery, but you do more than just a few. You don't just stay with your core. And I think one thing that beer fans want to hear about is what's on tap. So maybe you could go through what Bad Shepherd customers are drinking the most of these days here in the winter of 2023.
Oh, man. Well, they just went through a whole tank of electric petting zoo.
Yeah.
That is a popular one.
So
that's one. Didn't you have a friend in from out of town, I think, who was drinking electric petting zoo here, a beer fan from up Pennsylvania?
Oh, yeah, Rob, my friend Rob. Yeah. Cheers to Rob Brewery, repping the Pennsylvania craft scene. Rob and I enjoyed a petting zoo or two.
Yeah, so those styles, that's still popular.
Hazy IPA, absolutely. Yeah, low IBUs. Idaho 7 and Citra are the two in that, but trendy, citrusy, fruity hops is really the thing. And West Virginians are just getting more and more into IPAs, not less and less.
Oh, that's interesting because I guess
I think so.
In some parts of the country, more probably advanced craft beer markets, they say they think that some of that has peaked. Not that it's going down; it's still the most popular. But the IPAs may, and stylistically, have had their top run. I mean,
everyone would love to make the call of like the end of IPA, right? They'd love to
the
be
end
like
of the hazy.
They'd love to be like the one to have called it right, but they've been trying to call it for years.
Yeah.
And they just keep coming. So
especially in our market.
I don't know. Don't count IPA out yet.
All right. Well, we'll talk about what's new in your beer. What's up and coming.
Interested to see how a big imperial stout that's in smooth ambler rye whiskey barrels turns out. Mm-hmm. That's a taste it, and when it's ready, we deal with it. Mm-hmm. So sometime in the next several months to several more months, we could see that. But coming up in the next few weeks, we'll have a batch of Cloud Machine out.
Oh, it's been a while since you've had that.
Lots of oats. It's got some rye malt in it. Eldorado hops. Galaxy hops.
Speaking of hazy IPAs,
that
is a hazy IPA.
I know, and I was tempted to not do it because the grain bill is dumb, and extravagant. And, yeah, I'm just crazy, you know. It's like you can tell I was like new to running this little brewery when I made that recipe.
It's very well received.
It's really complicated.
Yeah. So does that mean it's a little bit pricier probably than your standard, the Loud IPA, which is your, well, if you have a flagship, I guess that's it.
Yeah. I would say the grain bill is going to be higher than the Loud per pint, you know?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so your pricing at the brew pub in Charleston, West Virginia, you have some beers still at around $5 a pint. But,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, but you then have some. I mean, it's pricing that varies with the cost probably of the beer that you're making. Like,
oh, yeah.
Go through that range of prices and how you determine how you know what the price should be.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I think we really like to have $5 pints at the brewery. I mean, you should get that's kind of a reward for coming in, right? It's like
it is for me.
You know, so we don't have any plans to raise prices on our like base beers, you know, and flagship IPA. You know, it's kind of got to be $5. We're not trying to go crazy with that.
Well, that's interesting because you know so many places beer prices have gone up and pints have been $6 or $7. I mean, even in Charleston, West Virginia, there are bars that are doing that. So some of your beers, I mean, I think they're still bargains, and I hope they.
Hey, that's great.
I hope you fight that price for a while.
We'll do everything we can to keep it reasonable, but you know, when you get into fruit, there's nothing we can do about that. It's just it's expensive.
Mm-hmm. Well, and let's circle back for just a second. I know I asked you about you know what's new and what's upcoming, and you mentioned the cloud machine, and then we started talking about ingredients. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention that you didn't get to touch on yet?
Oh yeah, another exciting beer is going to be. We're kind of aiming for like a session IPA, collaboration with Loopy Fest. It'll be our second year of doing a beer collaboration with Loopy Fest in Huntington.
Sounds exciting.
What month is that one?
It is in April.
Okay, so we got a while.
Spring, yeah.
Yeah, got a little while, but we're planning out this brew with I think some Equinaut hops, some Galaxy hops, maybe another one. Landon Adams puts that festival together, and so he's going to come over and help me brew.
Very good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun collaboration. Well, I know that you learned recently that your assistant brewer has accepted a new opportunity elsewhere. So obviously that's going to mean some changes for the brewery. What are the plans for replacing him? You think you'll just look for a replacement, or is now the time to change up staffing and positions possibly?
Oh man, you know that's going to be a kind of thing we're rolling with as we make that transition the next couple weeks. Yeah, Mike's going back to the culinary world out on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I've got a fellow who is an intern through the brewing program. And he's been coming in to wash some kegs, you know, kind of get back up to speed with that. Have some other prospects, but we're taking applications, you know?
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been enjoying this Poplar, what's it called? Poplar
brown ale with honey malt.
Yeah.
I have two. It's very good.
Yeah, very nice. But I see that you've got another bottle sitting there open. So introduce that second beer that you brought for us today.
Yeah, second beer is out of the cellar. Peach Folk Funk from 2021.
Wow, so we're getting a cellared beer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's not quite 2 years old, but close enough.
Looking forward to that.
And as Ross opens the corked top on this, wow, there it's pouring with a nice head still. So, yeah, that's done well. And it's very clear. Nice golden color. Yeah, very nice.
And peach
Yeah,
peach
beautiful
folk
beer.
funk, we called this.
Yeah, so this was in a red wine barrel.
Ooh.
Yeah. So go ahead and just talk about it.
Probably about 18 months. Somewhere between 13 and 16 months, probably. Maybe 18. I don't think so.
And the base beer was what?
This was a basically a saison. It's about it was probably a 6.8% saison. And then as that beer got topped up in the barrel, because you lose some to evaporation, added peach puree and more beer, just lighter beer as we go. And, I'll use any light beer that I have, like Kolsch,
Sure.
Blonde Ale, Pilsner. If it's a golden barrel, it's getting golden beer to top it up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we're down to about 6.3, and, it should be right around there.
It's got some great flavor.
Yeah, very nice. Still very fresh in the sense of that, but it's got the tartness in there, a
That it
little
should have.
barrel that, it's so drinkable.
Mm-hmm.
This was a good barrel.
That was a good barrel.
Definitely some of that red wine.
So as we enjoy the peach funky beer, what was it again?
Peach Folk Funk.
Peach Folk Funk. I don't screw that up. The Peach Folk Funk. We're moving, though. Let's talk a little, get your personal take, Ross, on today's trends in beer and what your customers are seeing changing in the beer market, or what you're seeing in your customers. Is it moving along? I mean, are things like you already said, and we've talked a little bit about, the IPAs are still, very strong, but talk about any other trends you're seeing at your place.
Well, so it's so difficult in a way to get into it from my end, because we sell 12 taps and they all sell through. So
well, some sell through faster.
Some do. Yes.
Hey, listen, I've been there and seen beers that I thought wasn't that there last month?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, one of those taps.
So certainly fruity sours, not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
People attack them. They just go for it.
And that would include that Sour Holler series
Yes.
that we talked about earlier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
IPAs, absolutely still popular. Maybe it's just us, but I don't think so. People are responding to kind of classic styles.
Including like darker styles.
Well, yeah, and I have like some younger staff members who are not huge beer fans, really. I mean, they are learning more all the time, but they're into this poplar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that's an easy one
into a brown ale. You know, it's like never would have picked it.
Mm-hmm.
True, and I think a lot of times lack of exposure is why people don't drink a beer. They don't know it, and brown ales and English browns and American browns, whatever you want to call it, any different style browns and honey browns, they've not been strong in recent years in the pubs. So if you don't see them, I mean, people don't know that they like them. Is that what kind of you see, though, when they do try it? Their reaction is, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. They just need that exposure.
Yeah, so what do you think then, beyond what you've just mentioned, any beer styles that have a pretty big upside today? I mean, have you seen like what we're seeing in a lot of parts of the country about lagers moving up, pilsners?
Well, it's and that's where it is. Like we're in Charleston, West Virginia. Light beer's always been popular.
Yeah, sure has.
So our Kolsch does sell really, really well. Often.
And that's the Chucktown Kolsch.
The Chucktown Kolsch.
Yeah, that's one I've consumed a few pints of.
The other Charles City, of our fair state. Yeah, it sells well. I'm looking around for my next hop order for more of that.
Yeah,
I've got to find even better hops,
Sure, yeah, and I'd love for you to continue to explore that. And another one that you have explored in the past has been a Pilsner style that you've hit on a couple of those in the past year or two that have been just dynamite, but it's not one I see as often on your tap list.
No, the Bohemian Pilsner?
Yeah.
Yeah, generally I can turn that Kolsch around in 3 weeks or less.
Right.
Which is still a long time. A lot of brewers give Kolsch about 10 days, but
No, I'm glad that you take the time.
I don't have to rush it, so I don't.
No, you shouldn't.
Just lucky in that regard. But the Pilsner, I can't turn that Pilsner around in any less than 5 weeks.
No, I understand that. Yeah. But, when you make your Oktoberfest, you're one of the last strongholds of that thing is made and then and conditioned all summer,
Well, I'm planning my grain order for that beer.
Yeah.
For the Marzen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your... I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's just like on my to-do list.
What about, I've heard a lot from, as I'm in sampling beers, people seem to really like the Queen of Mystery.
The Queen of Mystery.
Yeah,
as
so
they
talk
should.
a little bit about that, because
Yeah.
that's definitely not...
I love the name. I love that name.
It's not a, regular flagship. It's probably not something people have been exposed to, so describe that a little bit.
No, I haven't made it in a couple years. English special bitter. They're special bitters because they use good hops, not because they're terribly bitter. And it's not that bitter. And I've just got, fresh, nice English hops and English crystal malts and pretty traditional classic beer. And I think the first time I brewed it was 2017.
Oh wow!
So nice to have it. Nice to have it back.
Mm-hmm. It is nice, and again, I've heard from bar patrons they very much like it.
Yeah, it's funny though to have like three similar Lovabond score beers, right? Like I've got the Queen of Mystery, the Shot Caller, and now this Honey Brown. Mm-hmm. And it's like a treat for the people who like that.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes you go into another bar and they've got 10 IPAs on tap and and no darker beers.
Yeah, we'll just keep being weird in that regard, You just drink the loud. If you want IPA.
Well, let's take a big picture look statewide. How do you view the current market state of our craft beer as far as the market in West Virginia? Is it healthy? Do you like where it's headed?
Gosh, we're just pretty close in our sales, I think. So, it's healthy, I guess. It's not seeing a ton of growth, but we'd have to do some things differently to get into more growth, I was excited to see 2 new out-of-state beers entered the market recently,
Mm-hmm.
Jackie O's and
Mm-hmm.
Equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
It's been nice to get a draft of those, and hopefully new beers like that coming in just get more people interested in craft.
I was going to kind of follow up with, hey, what stands out to you? But you answered that sort of ahead of me. Is there anything else other than just new distribution to our area that might stand out as far as our craft beer market here?
That's kind of like all I've seen recently is like, those new offerings. Haven't gotten to travel a lot on beer business recently. Mm-hmm. I did have a really nice Weathered Ground beer yard sale. That was
yes.
Great beer. So it's great to see, like, right down the menu from Equilibrium was this Weathered Ground that was like every bit as good.
Nice.
Maybe fresher. Yeah.
Well, Ross, there always seems to be things we could do to improve the business climate for small local brewers in our state. With the legislature now in town, What might be something that they could do to either remove roadblocks or help solve problems facing West Virginia's brewing industry?
Good question. Not sure I have a great answer.
Well, I know you're not a
that.
lobbyist, but just
I just spend all my time dealing with like the system as it is, so
right.
really sure what would improve.
So it sounds like maybe you guys can do good business with even the current laws.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm sure there's ways that it could be more efficient.
Well, I think a lot of us see things that, from our perspective on the craft brew side, we see things that the state administration does, and it's like, you guys are just making this harder on yourselves. The some of the forms and stuff that you have to send in, like in a writable PDF, but you can't copy and paste in said PDF, and it's like, this is really difficult.
Inefficient.
They're like, you could use it. You could use a real program like Excel, or Word, and it would be easier than trying to type into this PDF. But then they have to go through all that on their end and print all that. They print all this stuff. They're printing paper copies of all kinds of things. It just doesn't seem efficient.
Well, along the way, as Bad Shepherd Beer Company has developed into the brewery that we all love today, there must have been some interesting anecdotes or stories or customer antics that gave you a good chuckle, laugh. Does anything in particular maybe come to mind that you might want to share with us?
Oh, man. Well, slowly but surely we've gained our regulars, and then if you get to be too much of a regular, we put you to work for us. We needed a form notarized one time, and one of our regulars went back to his office after he'd gotten off of work, and we were able to take care of this. Another of our regulars has gotten roped into being our plumber, electrician, fix-it guy. And I think Charles was actually in there the other night when Jack was removing some toilet fixtures and putting in new toilets in the ladies' room. And
no, I wasn't in the ladies' room, no.
Well, that's where the toilets were going.
Oh, okay.
Group effort.
But yeah, poor Jack did not know what he was getting himself into. And so now he's been roped into that.
Well, I'm sure it's always fun that your customers develop good relationships with you, sometimes in the toilets and sometimes at the bar.
Sometimes legal needs. It happens.
A couple winters ago, it was really, really cold for probably 6 weeks. For several of those weeks, we had a bird, one of our spent brewery grain-fed birds, sneak in the building. And this little guy, they named him Timmy T-Rex.
Aww.
We tried to catch him with box traps and stuff because we didn't want to exterminate this little bird, But okay, he survived the coldest part of the winter. And on the first warm day, we got him to go out the patio door. And
might save that little birdie's
life. Oh, yeah. Survival of the fittest right there.
Well, it's been great having you, Ross. I tell you what, it's always fun. You bring good information to West Virginia Beer Roads.
And we absolutely appreciate it. Thank you, Ross, so much for taking the time to talk with us this evening. And we look forward to what you are brewing and doing at Bad Shepherd Beer Company in Charleston, West Virginia.
Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.
Cheers. This brings us to the close of another podcast. Remember, you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast host. Thank you for listening to West Virginia Beer Roads.
West Virginia Beer Roads is a production of BrilliantStream.com.